Yeah, just give me a just give me a thumbs up when we're ready to go.
Hanging in there.
Everyone's mic on. Good evening and welcome to the Lynn Haven Neighbors Candidate Forum. We'll go ahead and get started. My name's Corey Langford. I'll be your moderator. This is only my second time around, so please have some patience with me. It's actually not going to be a candidate forum. We're just here to have a beard competition. Miss Tinder, you mind being the judge? Or I'm joking. So just kind of an overview for everybody watching live and everybody in the audience. I think all the candidates, we've pretty much went over everything. We'll start with some opening remarks, 2-minute response. We'll have 6 questions, and then the final 2 questions, you guys will be afforded 3 minutes to respond. Basically, the way it'll go is we randomly selected a candidate for the first question. That candidate will get the first question, and then the second question will go to the next person, third, so on and so forth. It's just kind of the way we'll go about it. We'll close out with some closing remarks, and then we'll be done. So, opening remarks, as far as I'm concerned, again, thank you to all the candidates. I know you all have extremely busy schedules at this time of the year, so thank you for taking time out of your days and your schedules to be here so that the voters in Lynn Haven can hear at least what you have to say based on what our questions are. Thanks to Mr. Ryan Scray for putting this together again. This is kind of there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes on, so thanks to him and Lynn Haven Neighbors and all the volunteers that helped out with that. To the residents that submitted questions, thank you. Again, these aren't my questions. These are questions from the voters. So thank you to those who did submit questions. And then finally, everybody in attendance and everyone that's watching online, thank you all for viewing this and being involved in the community. Hopefully after this, we'll maybe, if you're undecided, maybe this will add a little bit of clarity. So that's my remarks. We'll start just from the left. Mr. Beshearse, any opening remarks?
Certainly. Hello, I'm Johnnie Beshearse. Hopefully most everybody knows me at this point. I've been out in the community talking to a lot of people. A little background on me, if you don't know me, I'm a lifetime resident of Lynn Haven, pretty much. I did move to Panama City for just a short period after I married my wife, who's also a native Bay County resident. I've been involved in Lynn Haven, the political scene, for quite a while. You've seen me at the meetings, probably, hopefully, if you've been watching the meetings. So I do participate. I'm very aware of what's going on in the city and what the needs of the city are moving forward. The reason I'm running is I think it's time for us to get out of the sandbox and concentrate on the future and making the decisions that we need to make to move forward. We need to be decisive, and we need to make the decisions. Popular or not, we need to do that and just move on. So that's why I'm running. If you have questions after this, I would love to hear from anybody. You can always email me or give me a phone call, either one. Thank you.
Mr. Warrick, 2 minutes.
Yes. So, everybody hear me? My name is Jamie Warrick. I'm not originally from here. I'm originally from a little town in upstate New York of about 3,500 people. After I graduated high school, I joined the Air Force, where I spent 23 years in my career all over the world. And I was very fortunate. I had parents that brought me up with good values, ethical, moral values, and also my father. He was a fire chief at one time. And I think, because a lot of people ask me, why are you doing this? And I think part of that is my upbringing, because my father, since he was a volunteer fireman, community involvement was very important, and I still believe that today. I think community involvement is very important, and I encourage everybody to do so. As you know, I'm already a commissioner running for re-election. So, top three things I'd like to concentrate on is restoring public trust of the city. I think a lot of residents feel that the city's not forthcoming with information. I'd like to improve that. I'd like to improve our budget process so that the commission are the ones that setting the priorities, and that we're doing it earlier in the process as opposed to later, and we're kind of put in a corner. And then the last thing is planning development. I think we're in dire need of updating our comprehensive plan and unified land development code so we know the direction of how we want to develop Lynn Haven. So that's me in a nutshell, and I humbly ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Warrick. Ms. Tinder, you got 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I have served on the commission. I was first elected in 2017 and stepped down in January of 23 to run for mayor. And so I'm back for a last hurrah. The things that I would love to see change in Lynn Haven is we have to have more transparency. It's probably one of the biggest complaints I get, that nobody that is not there doesn't understand what's going on. They want answers and they can't seem to get them. Transparency is something that is so important, because if they don't have it, they don't feel like they can trust what they're hearing or not hearing. That is a big issue. I would love to see that change. I would love to encourage the community to come back to commission meetings. And of course, if they come back, I would like to see them treated with respect, because that's why they don't come now, according to them. The library is a hot issue. I know that's on the referendum this time. And I'm hearing a lot of talk about that and how people feel about it. And there's lots of options for the library, and I think the seniors would love to see that. I would personally love to see a resident hotline go in. The biggest complaint that I hear is that nobody ever calls anybody back. They leave messages and then they don't get messages back. I would love to see a residential hotline go in where people can call, leave their issue, their phone number, and get a call back, at least to make them feel like they've been heard. It's a known fact in the public world and business world that people just want to be heard. You don't even have to tell them that they're right. They just want to be heard. And I think that's something that we need to work on very badly.
Thank you, Ms. Tinder.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder, you got 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to be here. My name is Jeff Snyder, and I'm excited to serve as your next Lynn Haven Commissioner. We are blessed to live in what I believe is the best city in Bay County. While our community isn't immune to challenges, I firmly believe that it's the responsibility of citizens to work toward making the place they call home the best that it can be. That work can take many forms, whether it's getting involved on an advisory board, sharing their opinions with local leaders, or even seeking elected office. We all have a hand in the long-term success of our home. I'm running to ensure that Lynn Haven remains a premier destination for families, and so that my children have more opportunities than I did. I've been a member of the Lynn Haven community since 1990. I loved growing up here, and I cannot think of a better place to raise a family. I have been married to the love of my life, Samantha, for almost 16 years, and we are raising our 4 children here in this amazing city. A passion for service is at the core of who I am, and it has led me to be an active member of our community. I've had the pleasure of serving on the Lynn Haven Planning Board for the last 6 years, including 2 terms as chairman. I'm also an active and involved member at First Baptist Lynn Haven. I've been honored to serve in a number of leadership roles there during my 35 years of membership. My children are active in our youth sports programs, and my whole family regularly participates in city events like our concert series, festivals, and of course the annual 4th of July celebration. Now I believe I'm ready to take the next step and serve the citizens of Lynn Haven as Seat 4 Commissioner. I look forward to answering all of tonight's questions and earning the support of the voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Mr. Marler, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you for Lynn Haven Neighbors for putting on this forum. My name is Jamie Marler, and I'm running for Lynn Haven City Commission Seat 4. The reason I'm here is I love the city of Lynn Haven. I want to see it progress, and I want to see it grow responsibly. I'm raising a son, and I want to allow my son to grow up here and to raise his family here, and where I don't have to travel out of town to see my grandchildren. I'm retired, former businessman, former law enforcement, and that affords me the opportunity to devote my full time to the city of Lynn Haven, to the business of the city of Lynn Haven. It allows me the opportunity to go to City Hall, to make sure our city manager and staff are working diligently to make sure that Lynn Haven remains the best city in Bay County. We have some challenges ahead. We need to make sure that we're prepared for that. There's a lot of people moving here. There's a lot of growth happening. The city doesn't have time to kick the can down the road, as people say. We need to make sure we have people available to make decisive decisions, make bold decisions, and move ourselves forward. At the end of the day, we need to move forward together. We need to stop with getting mired in the past and focus on the future, and I'm here to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, candidates, for your opening comments. So we're going to jump into the questions. Just as a reminder, since this is a forum style, you guys are more than welcome to. We all disagree and agree on things, right? So if you want to address something someone said, you're more than welcome to do that. There won't be any rebuttal time, but the next question around, when you have a chance to talk, you're more than welcome to address something that a previous candidate said that maybe you agree or disagree with. So with that, we'll head right into question number 1. Ms. Tinder, congratulations. You were the randomly selected candidate for question number 1. Mr. Snyder, you'll have the opportunity to answer question number 2 first, and so on. So the first question, according to one Lynn Haven resident, police officers in Lynn Haven make drastically less than other local police departments. How do you feel about the pay of Lynn Haven police officers, and do you feel this pay gap affects the hiring of qualified applicants and retention of trained officers?
Absolutely. I think it affects everything, and I do believe that they make less. I believe they deserve more, and I would even love to see their training upgraded. And we have great police officers here. They're wonderful, and I think they deserve the very best. I don't know that sometimes we shouldn't question in the budget how many millions we spend on squad cars. Not that you want them riding around on a horse or you want them riding in something that's going to break down. But I think that's something that needs to be looked at, and maybe some of those things can be shifted over into pay. But many of our police officers, about 4 years ago when we had a situation where we changed insurances, the police officers at that point could not afford to pay for insurance for a family of 5. If you had 3 children, a wife, and whatnot, they couldn't even afford to pay for that insurance. So I think we need to look at that and make things more affordable for them. That was something that kind of got pushed through, that insurance change. And, but yes, I think they deserve everything. I think they deserve everything they can get.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder, you have 2 minutes.
All right. The pay gap is making it difficult to attract and retain quality police officers. I had a sit down with both the police chief and the fire chief this week, and that was a hot topic. The fact that they're having to rework their budgets so that they can just meet the needs of the officers is something that they shouldn't have to be doing. The fact that our professionals are having to move into an apartment together so that they can afford just to live is not something that we should be addressing as a point of pride. My commitment would be to effectively and diligently look at our budget, achieve efficiencies so that we can pay our law enforcement, our first responders, a living wage, one that they can be proud of, one that's going to make them want to stay in Lynn Haven, stay employed with the city. Because if we don't, we're going to train them and we're going to lose them. We're going to bring them in and they're going to go right out the door as soon as a good opportunity comes knocking. That would be something that I'd be very interested in looking at, and it's one that I want to address as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marler, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, I'm going to echo some of the same sentiments. As a former law enforcement officer, this has been an issue for many years in many departments. It's not something that's easily solved, but as Mr. Snyder said, when you have that issue, you have officers come in that are new, that are out of the academy, they serve their time there, they get their training, and then they move on to other places. So we're just kind of a throughfare. And we have to be able to work on that. But the issue is there's so much money in, so much money out. At the end of the day, people don't want to pay more taxes. People don't want to pay more fees. So we have to adjust and be able to adapt. And again, figure out what we need to do to make sure that we're comparable to other cities. It's just as important as quality of life or anything else in the city of Lynn Haven. Our police protection is fantastic. Our police department is among the best in the state of Florida on response times and other things, accreditation. And you know, we just have to focus and highlight some of these areas where we need to work on it as a city government or city commission, that we're able to serve and keep and the retention of officers. It's important to the city of Lynn Haven. It's part of our identity. At the end of the day, they deserve it, and we need to work hard for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marler. Mr. Beshearse, you have 2 minutes.
Sure, thank you. So I had a discussion with who was the acting chief back about a little over a year ago, well, probably closer to a year and a half at this point, about this subject. Wondering how the morale of the police department was and what our retention was and what our turnover was. At that point, we had lost a couple of officers, and he said that the reason they gave him was that they couldn't afford to live here on their pay. I understand that. We do have to, the word drastically is hard to define here, so I don't know what that really means in this context, but we have to pay a living wage, but we have to also look at the overall benefit package too. There's a reason that people come to the city and work here, and there's a reason that turnover, I don't think, in the police department is really, really high right now. The benefit package is there if they can afford to live here. It is a shame that we're not paying them a living wage, and that has to happen. We have to look at the budget and decide what we need to do to address that, but we have to find the way to make that, to pay them, because money, as y'all are aware, is always tight, and I don't think it's going to get less tight as we go forward. So as we move forward, we need to look at that and see how it goes. When I talked with Mrs. Hodges about the pay scale and with Chief Ramey about the pay scale, was that there are some gaps in certain ranges within the police department. Some of the ranks are not paid sufficiently where others are paid sufficiently. So we need to look at that rank structure and see where the gaps really are and address the gaps that we have there, and not maybe, well, we do need to address the overall problem, but certainly the gaps in those areas that are a little bit short on pay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Warrick?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think everybody can agree with this. Police officers deserve every dime that they earn, that they work for us. It's a very tough job. I'll be honest with you, I don't think I would be a very good police officer. They do amazing work, and the things that they have to deal with day in and day out, it's a lot. And when we depend on them, we expect them to do it, but they need it on the other end where they're expecting that we take care of them also. The way I understand is when they first come in, the pay gap is really not bad. It's when you start going in the upper, like the NCO manager leadership type positions, it starts having that pay gap, and then they start looking at other cities. So yeah, I would like to fix that also. I think the other part of that, two things I want to get with that is, I don't know how many people know this, we just talked about this on Facebook the other day. When you get pulled over, and let's say you get a speeding ticket, you know how much that money comes back to the city? $2. So it's a $200 fine, $2 comes back to the city. And I remember I did a research this one time. We collected like $430,000 in fines. Out of $430,000 of fines, we got $30,000 back from all those fines. And our police department, it's a little over $4 million to fund the police department every year. So I would like to get some help from the state, and I would urge our state representatives to do that. And the last thing I want to say is, I know it says police officers, but I believe dispatchers are in this category also. And it's one thing I learned when I went to Tallahassee and went to some of their meetings and some of their legislation, and I learned that dispatchers have to deal with a lot. They're the first person that a person's calling, and they're helping them with that situation. And you would think because they're separated from that location, it doesn't affect them. It affects them dearly, and they have to deal with that. And so I would include that in there too. Thank you.
Thank you. We made it through question number 1. Mr. Snyder, you'll be answering question number 2. And it is much has been discussed about what the city cannot do regarding short-term rentals based on Florida statutes. If elected, how do you plan to address citizens' concerns that short-term rentals negatively affect the safety of their neighborhood? You got 2 minutes.
Thank you. All right. So short-term rentals, it's become a booming economy, especially in Florida, because people love it here and they want to come and they want to visit, and they don't want to plunk down a small fortune to stay at the beach, and so they'll find some place a little bit further away and commute to and from. The problem, as I see it, with short-term rentals is that if you can't vet or properly vet the people that are staying there, then you have no way of knowing what kind of trouble you're welcoming into an otherwise quiet neighborhood. I would commit to making sure that we put stringent ordinances in place to give code enforcement, police, fire, every tool that they need to effectively keep the peace, maintain order, and work toward maintaining harmony within a neighborhood, because people live there, they build their lives there, they raise their kids there, and when you have that kind of uncertainty going on, it sets everything on edge, and it is not something that I want to see. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to see it, happening in my neighborhood, and so I think it's only reasonable to extrapolate that out to everybody else's neighborhood. So that would be my approach to it, is working within the confines that we have, because we can't step on people's toes if they want to try and make a little extra money with a short-term rental. But we do need to make sure that everybody's playing by a set of rules that can be easily enforced and easily adhered to. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marler, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so again, it's an issue where property rights are involved. When you have somebody that owns a property, do they have the right to rent it out to anyone? We have a lot of issues. We've had personally affected by it with houses in our neighborhood. where law enforcement has been called many times. And I don't know that there's a solid solution to it. But again, we have to have some sort of ordinance where, I don't know if it's an age gap, an age limit. It seems to be, many younger adults where these type of hostilities happening. It's not fair to the neighbors. Lynn Haven is a family-oriented town, and people come here, they rent spaces, and they go to the beach for spring break and these type of things. So we're drawing part of that element here to the city of Lynn Haven. So it has to be addressed. I don't know what the actual solution to is, but we have to have ordinances in place to address it. It's not fair to our neighbors when they have to deal with that sort of thing, especially when it comes to firearms and violence, that type of thing. It's a different story if it's just over partying and that type of, minimal stuff. But, when it becomes life-threatening and those type of things, we have to address it as a commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beshearse, you have 2 minutes.
So some of the issues with short-term rentals revolve around, we have had certain residences in town that have had multiple units on their property where they're renting to more than one person, more than one group of people, having small buildings, accessory structures such as that. And those cause immense problems, and they're not within the land use codes. So we need to make sure that if we do have short-term rentals, that they are at least abiding by the current land use codes. We do have some control over that, so we have to make sure that they abide by that. There may be an opportunity to look at if there's excessive response from our emergency responders, police, fire department, that maybe we need to highlight that, and I don't know if you can charge for that. If you can say, well, you're getting 5 calls a month at this residence, we need to address what the problem is there and go forward with that. I would like to mention that currently the state legislature is looking at a law or a bill to allow rentals in accessory structures on all housing in small or low-density residential properties, meaning that any neighbor that you have can now rent out an accessory structure to someone on their property, and the city of Lynn Haven or any municipality in the state is not allowed to prohibit that. So it kind of overcomes part of the low-density residential zoning if that's passed. It's current legislation that's pending in the Florida legislature, and the Board of Realtors is supporting that. I don't know where everybody falls. I would like to get feedback from everybody on that particular item. I know it's not a short-term rental issue, but it is something that we will need to face coming forward if they decide to pass that law. We need to see if there's a way for us to manage that. Everybody has a right to use their property as they see fit, and as long as the short-term rentals are not causing a problem in the neighborhood, I think it's probably an acceptable use at this point.
Thank you. Commissioner Warrick, you have 2 minutes.
So I'm actually what you call a home rule guy. And in case you don't know what home rule is I believe that the state should give more authority to the cities to solve problems like this. And this is a perfect example where they tie our hands. The state dictates there's a lot of things that we cannot do with short-term rentals. So for instance, you live in a subdivision, you could have 5, 6 houses in there that have short-term rentals. It don't matter what the land use code is. They can have that in there. Me personally, what I would like to do is have it where they're required to register with the city. And I don't care what the cost is. It could be something as low as $5. And that way, if we do have a problem with that, because they're required to register as a business, that is one thing they're required to do. And if they're being irresponsible and continually renting out to, for instance, a lot of times it's college kids, and usually you have spring break, and they come in, what do? They come in, they party, and cause all kinds of problems, and then they leave, and then you have another one come in. And if it's a house that continually have problems, then we can revoke that business license that they were required to register with the city. And that way it gives us the authority to be able to control that, because I know residents don't know, a lot of times they don't like us giving them requirements on what they can and can't do, but it's important for us to only do it on things, most of the time it's on things of safety and security, and this is one of the big things. It is a safety problem, and it's not just a problem here in Lynn Haven, it's across the problem in Florida, and I believe most of the problem is at the state level. And I talked to Representative Griffiths and Senator Trumbull about this, and luckily Representative Griffiths, he's a big home rule guy, but you got to realize he's he's trying to fight against a lot of other representatives that are in big cities and that feel that they're the ones that have to control the cities as opposed to the other way around where you give more authority to cities. So it's a complicated issue, but I would like more authority to cities to be able to solve that problem.
Thank you. Ms. Tinder?
I would love to see more home rule, number one. But I have to say, and I say this on Jeff's behalf for sure, because he lives very close to me, and he has 4 children. And I had a gentleman come to me at the cafe and say, you have to register as a sexual predator within 1 week when you move. And we should know if we're renting out to sexual predators, especially around people that have young children. This man said if he had his kids there, he wouldn't even let them outside. It's not just that, and yes, the police have been called, and it's been tons of people in the house, like 2 adult groups with tons of little kids. One of the things I've heard in the past is they pack up, they leave Sunday night or whenever they leave town, if they're there for the weekend, and they leave their trash everywhere. I mean, they don't put it in the trash can and whatnot, and most of these places have housekeepers that come in and clean up the next day. Those housekeepers are finding needles, drugs, anything, you name it, they're finding it in these places when they leave. I think if we address this whole zoning issue, and I know that that would be next to impossible to make happen, but even if the folks that were renting had to register, so you have their name, you have their wherewithal, you can trace them down, and register with the police department, code enforcement, everything. Our police department should have a list. Okay, this Friday, we have 15 families coming in for the weekend. They should be able to at least stay on top of it that way, if nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to question number 3, Mr. Marler. What skills and/or experience do you have with large budgets, accounting, or infrastructure that qualify you for the job as a commissioner?
My background is family business, so as a general manager, I dealt with managing people and managing budgets and managing profit and loss. And as a general manager or anybody in a lead role, you have to be an effective listener, not only an effective listener, but an effective communicator. I always say qualifications equal qualities. So if you have the right qualities, and when it comes to city government, it's about listening to the people and really understanding what they need and what their wants are, what their concerns are, and looking at the benefit of the whole of the community, the majority, not the special interest or a small section or anything else. So for me, not only as a background in business, being a law enforcement officer, you're trained to make decisions in high-pressure situations where it affects people. And at the end of the day, it's the same with us here in our city in Lynn Haven. We have to be able to communicate, we have to be able to listen, and we have to be able to communicate to the people where we're very transparent about the decisions we're making. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. That's what's important for us as a community. We don't need distractions, and we don't need situations where people feel like they're not being told the whole story or the whole truth. So at the end of the day, I think that's what makes me qualified. I have a whole background in both of those areas, and I've had leadership roles my entire life, and I'm a servant at heart, and I think that's what makes me qualified.
Thank you. Mr. Beshearse, 2 minutes.
Yes. So I worked for Arizona Chemical for 38 years. Part of my job descriptions there were running multi-million-dollar projects. We ran projects all along for equipment installation and making sure these projects were done timely, within budgets, and met their goals. So I have plenty of experience with large budgets and how you do the reporting, daily, weekly, monthly, making sure that you're meeting your milestones. And that's what we need to see here. We need to see when the project's going on, we need to see that these milestones are met as we go forward. So on these large projects, I have the experience to manage that and to watch that, although that is not the position that the commission's in. We're here to guide and give guidance to the city and not for the city to give us guidance. One thing why I see the problems right now is I feel like the current commission is being pushed by the city to do things instead of the commission pushing the city to do things. And that is an issue. That's something that we really have to address going forward. So I've had experience there. Early in my career, I did equipment design, piping design for systems, and then we would go out and see those systems put in place to see, thankfully, where we made our mistakes so we didn't make them again in the future, because when you do engineering work, you're not perfect. So you can see that, but that was part of my job description. I've also run a couple of stormwater mitigation projects where we've built retaining walls. One of the projects that I was involved with was designing, or not actually designing, but specifying how much wall we had to have built around an entire chemical plant to hold a 100-year flood, plus a couple of ruptured tanks within that system. So I'm familiar with stormwater and how to handle it. I know how water flows. So I have that as far as infrastructure is concerned. We did piping surveys and things like that for underground, where we're looking at why we're not getting the flow where we should be getting the flow. Some of the same problems that we have in Lynn Haven. I've had that experience, and I will bring that to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Warrick?
So, as I stated earlier, I had 23 years experience in the Air Force, and as you know, when you go in the Air Force, you start from the very bottom and you work your way up, and I worked myself all the way up to Senior Master Sergeant E8 level. And you know, I've been everywhere from having a government purchase card, learn how that process works, to being a senior manager where I'm overseeing, you know, approximately 250 people and a multi-million-dollar budget. I was with aircraft maintenance, so a lot of money goes into repairing and maintaining the aircraft, and we would have sit down with unit and group commanders explaining our needs and prioritize and how much things cost and how we're saving money. So I have a lot of experience with that, and I've been on unit staff before. We're working closely with resource advisor, understanding, you know, how we keep track of that. And then after I retired, I was hired as a DoD contractor with the Air Force Civil Engineer Center as an analyst. And basically what I did was there's multi-million-dollar projects where they're doing research and development for rapid runway repair. And I kept track of a lot of those projects, how much they're spending, are they on target, are they overspending, underspending in that. And then I got hired by another company where we're overseeing weapon armament, as far as how much we spend on purchasing of it and research and development, and it's all numbers, you know. Wish I could go in more detail into it, but yeah, I deal with that on a day-to-day basis right now. As far as infrastructure, when I worked at Air Force Civil Engineer Center, I got to work with some engineers, you know, on how specifications work and how they rebuild runways and things like that. But I'll be honest with you, it's not my strongest point, and that's where I rely on my subject matter experts to go to and ask them questions. And I still have friends at the Civil Engineer Center that I kind of rely on and ask them questions, so kind of get their expertise.
Thank you. Ms. Tinder?
Well, I would think, now you know why I call this guy the numbers man. He knows his numbers. I think that probably my best and biggest experience when it comes to budgets is how it started. And the way we used to do the budget in 2017 is much different than the way it's done now. There never used to be a problem for a commissioner to go into the CPA or the bookkeeper and say, can you tell me what this person's making per hour? Or can you tell me, this used to be my favorite, when the commission would vote through something and somehow it would get passed because they said, oh, they're much cheaper. And then I would wait a month and go in and say, could you tell me how much we have spent on this group in the last month? And it would be double. So I think the way you do a budget is got to be very informal but very intense. It cannot be, it's a matter of looking at everything, and that's hard to do, but it takes a long time. You don't go in and do it in 10 minutes. And I agree with what Mr. Warrick said. It's something that should be done early summer so that you have months to go over departments and things of that nature to make sure that the money is being spread out where it belongs. I think you have to stay on top of that. You have to have access to the information. That's the biggest thing for me. Used to be, years ago, the bookkeeper would stand up in front and say, do you have any questions? You could say, yes, that one. What was that for? What did we spend that for? Sometimes the bookkeeper knew and sometimes she didn't. If they don't know what we're spending it on, that can be a real concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder?
So I'll start with the end of the question and kind of work my way back through it. As far as infrastructure goes, I've spent the last 6 years on the planning board. We have reviewed large developments, including the rebuild of the city. We've reviewed large and small developments, both residential and commercial. And so I think taking a critical eye and working all the way through those projects and making sure that they're the right idea in the right location, that they're going to benefit the citizens, I think that's skill and experience that will greatly qualify me to be a commissioner. With terms of large budgets and accounting, I've been in sales for over 20 years. I've managed multi-million-dollar territories for the last 15. And in that role, in that field, it's about making sure that when we negotiate, when we have a discussion about a good or a service, that everybody has as much information as they need to make a good decision. And so with regards to accounting, I would say, like Commissioner Warrick, that's my weak spot. The one role that I have consistently is a homeowner and a family, and that's a budget that I can't afford to mess up. And so that's the same tenacity that I'm going to take to the role of a commissioner is realizing that it's not my money. It's the citizens' money. I have a responsibility to do the very best with it that I can. And just being willing to ask why, I think, goes a long way to instilling confidence and making sure that people understand that you're doing the very best that you can with the money that they've given to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beshearse, question number 4 will be to you. What do you think is the best solution to the city's aging water treatment plant?
Okay, that's a good question and very pertinent for the time. That's one reason I'm up here. So, as people may or may not be aware, hopefully you are aware at this point, our current sewage treatment facility is at or above 70% capacity right now, is my understanding after talking with Public Works. And the state is mandating that we begin the process of expanding that system. So it's not, back like Jamie says, home rule. We don't have a choice here. We're going to have to expand this system. And if we continue to grow, we're going to need to. The current facility is aging out, besides it being needed expansion. So the current plans are to expand it from 2.5 million gallons a day to 4.5 million gallons a day, which is basically doubling the size of the plant. The best option currently is to actually pipe our sewage up to Edwards Road in Northern Bay County to the county facility and partner with the county. I think that's an excellent way to minimize the capital outlay that we're going to face. But given that, even then, it's going to be a $20 or $30 million project at the very minimum. As you can imagine, they're going to have to put 3 250 horsepower pumps down there at the end of 5th Street at A.L. Kinsaw, a pumping station. They have to have a backup pump, diesel or gas powered, in case those go out, to back that up. Then they've got to run an 18-inch force main all the way up to Edwards to do that. And they've got to handle expansion of that project up there also to handle our additional influent that we're going to do. On the flip side of that, we do have an advantage. We may pick up some retail customers as we go up that way, and if we annex people, that's basically the only direction Lynn Haven can go at this point, we may have sewer available to add them in, which will also help defray some of the costs going forward with impact fees and what have you like that. So I do think that's the best. It also gets our plant off of the bay. That's a horrible place for a sewage treatment plant, horrible place. We've got to get it off the bay, and this will do that. That won't go completely away, but it will go mostly away.
Thank you. Commissioner Warrick?
Yeah. I've had a few tours of the sewer plant, and the last one I had recently, I think it was about a month or 2 ago, and it's an old sewer plant. And if we were I agree with everything Johnny said. If we were to fix this problem by expanding our current sewer plant, it's going to be at least a $50 million bill, at least. And just to give you an idea how old the sewer plant is, when I was out there, got a tour of it a second time, there was this big motor that they had to replace. I think it was about $40,000 motor. And there's like a 20-week lead time to get this because nobody makes it anymore. Nobody makes the parts for it, so you got to, get special procurement for it. And they took it apart and they took a tag. They looked on the inside and there was a tag on the inside that said 1972 on it. That's how old that motor is. We got our money's worth on that motor, but it just gives you an idea how old all the other stuff that's in there. And my fear is if we go the direction of expanding that sewer plant, are we just, putting lipstick on a pig, and then we're continually have other problems down the road. I think this other solution, as far as connecting with the one that sewer plant out in Southport off 388, I really hope that comes through. I think that's going to be an awesome solution if it does. And if it does, as Mr. Beshearse was saying earlier, this would be a great opportunity if we want to expand Lynn Haven out to Southport Way so we can annex more residents in, which will bring more revenue in. I just wish we started earlier in the process because we already started the process of expanding our current sewer plant with engineering designs and that. And why we didn't do the other way, I don't know. But I wish we started that direction. But I really hope that goes through. I think it'll be the best for the residents if we do.
Thank you. Ms. Tinder?
One of the most interesting tours I have ever had in the city of Lynn Haven was when I first started. The second week I went to the water plant next to Kensaw. It was, I'd never seen anything like it, but it looked like a huge, like in your washing machine. It just goes around and goes around, and it has these little pockets. And we climbed up there and looked in. You could find anything you'd ever lost. And this was sewage that had come through. Lots and lots of money. Lots of money coming through, and it's going there. I mean, you name it, it's there. So that was very, very interesting. I tend to agree with these guys too. We can't wait until it's broke down, and then we have nothing. I think we have to be responsible. I think we do have to look at possible ways of getting the money to start. Like they said, it's going to take years. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. I think we need to plan ahead. I also have to say this because I've not had one Southport resident tell me yet they want to be annexed into Lynn Haven. So, and I asked that question because I see this situation coming. And I hope there are ways that we can make it happen to everyone's liking, and not just to benefit ourselves. But I think we do have to be very proactive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder, you have 2 minutes.
I think I could probably get it done in about 30 seconds. A lot of great ideas and plans have already been expressed, and I agree. I'm very thankful that we've got what appears to be a willing partner in the county to kind of combine forces and address a need that meets our needs both now and in the future, and then also helps the county achieve a goal of theirs. One of the things that we've all expressed, or they've expressed, and I will, the price tag of us trying to do it by ourselves is prohibitive. I don't think that that's something that we should undertake. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I think that one of the benefits, problems often present opportunities. And so one of the opportunities, and it was touched on, I think, by Commissioner Warrick, is that, or actually, I'm sorry, it was Mr. Beshearse, is getting the sewer plant off of the Bay Shore. That's an ecological nightmare waiting to happen. And I'm personally very thankful that, not for Hurricane Michael, but the fact that it was more of a wind event than a water event, because had we seen the flooding even that we'd experienced during Hurricane Opal, that story could have been a lot different and a lot more tragic. The other opportunity that this presents is that it gives us approximately 4 acres to redevelop right on some prime real estate within the city. I'd love to see an expansion to Kensaw Park. I'd love to see an opportunity for, Bayside Amphitheater or any number of things that we could redevelop that area and improve the quality of life for our citizens. But to sum it all up, I think that partnering with the county is the best possible solution, and I'd love to get to work on that as quickly as possible.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Marler?
Yeah, I'm going to have to echo a lot of the sentiments of the others. It makes perfect sense for us to partner and move out that direction. As Mr. Snyder was saying, that property is not right for a water treatment plant, and there's a lot of possibilities for the city of Lynn Haven, as far as revenue and otherwise. But I'm going to go a little different direction and say we don't have a choice at this point but to do that. And I'm glad we have that option. It goes back to we have to start making decisions in the city and be decisive and bold about the decisions we make. Educated decisions, informed decisions, but we have to be willing to do it, again, for the majority of the citizens of Lynn Haven. Because when we don't, we end up with a situation where it costs us millions and millions more dollars. And that's a perfect example of it. And they did it for the right reasons, because nobody wants to pay more taxes. We pay enough in taxes. And we have to figure out a way to start making those decisions, whether it's popular or not. And I hate to say that, but we have to.
Thank you. Next question will be to you, Commissioner Warrick. City debt. Would you support curtailing city services and/or programs to help balance the budget, as well as a forensic audit to identify departmental spending inefficiencies with a quarterly report to your constituents?
When you say curtailing city services programs, what do you mean by that?
So kind of what we were talking about is that, we don't want to pay more taxes, right? We've got to work within what we've got. So yeah, what services are you willing, or would you be willing to curtail?
So, for example, and I know this is on the ballot, it's non-binding referendum, but the library, right? I know a lot of people want a library. That's why we put it on there to kind of get their feedback. But yes, is it worth building something like that and putting that on the back of the citizens? I don't think. I think the debt is more of a priority than the library in that situation. Forensic audit, yeah, I'd be all for it. I was a big, I kind of brought this up, and I've been bringing it up for quite a while with the whole city rebuild. We were briefed $5.2 million what would be out of pocket when we got done with it by the Debt Review Committee, which I totally supported, and now we're up over $18 million. I've been asking city manager for about 2 years, and I still don't have a definitive answer on it. So I would love to have a forensic audit. More eyes the better. It's going to come down to how much it would cost a forensic audit. We do get an audit every year. However, those audits don't look for forensic stuff, fraudulent activity. They look at how well you're taking care of your books. If you never watched this documentary, it's called All the Queen's Horses. If you watch it, it's a great documentary, and they'll give you a really good perspective on what they do with audits. And they relate it to a restaurant critic as far as they rate you on how well you do your services and food and things like that. And so a lot of times people think those audits are supposed to pick those things up. In fact, those audits only pick up it's a really small number. I think it might be 4% of all the audits they find fraudulent activity. So I would be for that.
Thank you. Ms. Tinder, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, I definitely support forensic audit. I have in the past, and we had a audit approved one time, and as it turned out, I basically begged for an audit, and I had one commissioner vote, okay, maximum, we'll spend $100,000. Well, I had no idea what an audit would cost, but as it turned out at the end, we had an audit. It was not a forensic audit, from a company in Michigan, who sent 2 people down here. And they spent 2 or 3 days and had to go home. And then they gave us a report, and it said, we're just hunky-dory. I felt like we were ripped off of every penny we spent on that audit. I think it needs to be looked at, not exactly, I think we need to know where the money's gone. We need to know why it's gone. There's too many unanswered questions, just way too many unanswered questions. I think on help to balance the budget, I think there's a lot of ways to do that. And I don't think we need to cut the programs like the concerts in the park or anything like that. I think it can be done within house. You know, it doesn't have to affect the community and take away programs from them. But I think there are a lot of things in-house that probably need some clear answers. And I think that would straighten things out a lot. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Snyder, you have 2 minutes.
So my first and highest goal would be to make sure that we're looking inward and achieving our efficiencies kind of on our own before we look at cutting city services. You know, because where do you make the cuts? It's if you're not careful, then we really can begin to negatively impact our citizens. And so looking inward first, making sure that we're achieving every efficiency that we can. If there still is a gap, then I think as a commission, we would have to make some tough choices, but ultimately, if that's what has to happen, then that's what has to happen. I mean, you don't have to, I mean, look at a household budget. If there's a gap at the end of the month and there's still a bill that's due, you've got to make a tough choice. And so obviously nobody wants to, but if that's what needs to happen, then that's what needs to happen. In terms of a forensic audit, like has already been said, the more eyes, the better. I would be very careful with the cost of that because that can get very expensive very quickly. But you know, can we do better? Of course we can do better. Government has no incentive to be efficient because it doesn't produce a good or a service like a private business does. And so it takes committed, principled people in positions of leadership to make sure that every dollar that's spent is spent wisely and judiciously. The other thing that, I think that one of the things that we can do, talking about cutting city services, again, I'm not in favor of that at this point, but we can explore instead of shouldering all of the load ourselves, we can explore public-private partnerships. Every time that we have an event, I'm sure that there are businesses that would line up to get their name out there for just some free advertising. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marler, you have 2 minutes.
So, you know what? Let's talk about like the library, for example. And Mr. Warrick was saying it's tough because people want a library, but what we have to understand is we were given a certain amount of money from insurance, but the cost to build that actual library is much more extensive. So it's not just as easy as, hey, where's that money? But when it comes to auditing and efficiency, we talk about transparency in our city government. You have to look at how far we've progressed from where we were before. The debt reduction, the committees that have been put in place, the financial committee, there's procedures and processes in place where it has to go through 4 or 5 people before any PO is cut or any money is cut from the city. Those are all types of things that we could call, that a forensic audit would be looking for. They have tried to implement and put into place. I'm not a fan of cutting services, or affecting people's livelihoods. People are committed and work for the city of Lynn Haven. We want to continue to keep those people. We have great people that work for the city of Lynn Haven. We have to understand that we cannot continue to, again, as I touched on before, not be bold enough and clear enough to make the right decisions and do it without hesitation, because the city can't afford to keep doing that. That's what gets in the situation we're in now. We always knew we were going to be left with storm-related debt. This city went through a catastrophe. And at the end of the day, we've done well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beshear, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll start with the quarterly report to constituents. I have no issue with that. As a full-time commissioner, and by full-time I mean I'm retired, I have the hours and the time and the availability to meet with the department heads when I need to and when I want to. And I will do that. They'll see me. I may be a thorn in their side, and they may hate seeing me come up there as much as I will. But I'll get those numbers. I'll know those numbers all the time. It won't be something that you have to go in to grab as far as a quarterly report's concerned. Ask me for the numbers, and if I don't have them that day, I'll get them for you pretty quick. As far as a forensic audit, first I'm going to talk about this leftover debt from the storm-related debt. The $5 million, I believe, was an inherited number from the previous administration, and I believe it was from the city manager that's now in jail, but I'm not positive about that, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. But everybody has their spin on where this debt came from and why we're looking at $18 to $19 million in storm-related debt instead of $5 million. Their spin, but if I was having a problem and heartburn with that number and I thought there were millions of dollars out there that were unexplained, that the city manager could not explain it to me, I would go to the finance director. If the finance director couldn't explain it to me, I would bring it to the commission right then. And we would talk about it in public and make sure everybody was aware of that. I wouldn't let it go for 2 years. We're talking millions of dollars. If it's a problem, it needs to come out then and not later. So I would address it then. And because they've not given me the numbers or I didn't understand the numbers, would be on me and not on the city employees. I've talked to the city manager and I've talked to the finance director about this money, and I know where the differences are. The commission approved some change orders. They approved some task orders that added to those numbers. There was insurance money that was left on the table that was not collected. Some of it went to public adjusters. It comes from a variety of places. The offices, the temporary offices, a year, however long they were in there, it was a 1.3 million just on that. I've missed the rest of my question. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Thank you. We'll go on to our final 2-minute response question, and that'll be to you, Ms. Tinder. Question number 6 is, was that with discussion at the state level regarding the elimination of property taxes, what policies would you put in place to offset the reduction in the city budget?
That would be very interesting. And you know what? I'm just going to be 100% honest. I don't have a clue. That would be my honest answer. I could sit here and make up all kinds of stuff, but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what we would do in the city budget. It definitely needs work. I mean, I don't know. The elimination of property taxes?
It's being discussed at the state level, yes, ma'am.
Wow. And yet the city gets it from us for everything. They get it from us for everything. And they still have to keep getting it or they can't run the city. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm just going to say I honestly don't know. Never thought about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder?
Do you know how many states in the union don't have a property tax?
0.
Why'd you steal my answer? I was trying to make a point. The answer is 0. So this discussion at the state level is I kind of see this as a prime example of a kind of a law of unintended consequences type issue where it sounds good, it sounds great when we're campaigning, but then when you try to practically apply it, this is going to be a nightmare. So my sincere hope is that this does not find its way through to signing. I like Governor DeSantis as much as the next guy, but I don't think that this is a good idea at all. If it were to pass, I think that we would begin making some very, very hard decisions. We are going to have to still run a city, and so that's going to mean some tough votes, probably some very unpopular votes. To find funding for city services. It would also mean that we would be forced immediately to be very lean with what we're doing because, you know, I understand that the property tax going away puts money back in people's pockets, but we've still got services that the citizens expect. We've still got to keep the lights on. We've still got to keep police and firemen paid. And right now, I mean, we've already discussed it. I mean, they're underpaid. So if we start taking money away How do we even keep them to where they can pay their bills? Again, the watchword here to me is that I hope it doesn't pass. I hope that this kind of goes into the dustbin of history, because I think that it would be a tremendously bad idea, again, at the local level. It's something that's fun to talk about, but it's not something that I think we should really explore.
Thank you. Mr. Marler, 2 minutes.
Unless they know something I don't, I'm not a big fan of it at this point, without further discussion. What it means is we're going to end up with taxes on goods and services somewhere else. That's the only choice we're going to have. And when you do the math don't math. We're going to end up possibly paying more in taxes for the goods and services we buy as consumers. Again, as I said before, it's money in, money out. There's only so much, and that's where the budget comes from. And if we get rid of that property tax, it sounds great. Nobody wants to pay more taxes again, but it's got to be replaced with something else, and that's what it's going to be replaced with. So we need to think long and hard. And again, like Ms. Tinder said, I don't have all the information. So unless they know something I don't, I'm not a big fan of it at this point. It sounds great in theory, but we really have to take a hard look at it and see what the hard numbers are and what the process is and what we're going to have to do to make up the difference as a municipality.
Thank you. Mr. Beshearse?
Yes, so right now it appears that if anything on this passes, this is down the road, we'll have to address it, and as it comes forward, there'll be more information given from the state about whether this is going to come to pass or what it's going to look like. I would hope that the state at that point gives us some fairly decent options to recover. Right now, we can't impose additional sales tax because we can't. We're not allowed to. If they do away with property taxes, ad valorem taxes, then hopefully they'll open up some of that where some other taxes could be put in place. I will say that right now, ad valorem taxes for the city of Lynn Haven amount to about 15% of our budget. So we're not talking about the whole budget here. We're talking about a portion of it, $7 to $9 million, I think, this past year in ad valorem taxes. That can be made up through a variety of different methods if we need to. But going back to, can we add a sales tax? If they allow that, you're talking about probably a 2 to 3% sales tax to recover that money that you lose from ad valorem taxes. The difference that I see right now is they're talking about increasing the homestead exemption, which will have an immediate impact, and that's more near term than what we're looking at down the road for elimination of the tax completely. If you increase the homestead exemption, what will probably happen is you'll see the millage rates increase to whatever they can be increased to make up the difference. It'll shift the burden of the taxes away from some of the homesteaded properties to rental properties and investment properties and some of those other properties. So that's something to consider should that move forward. But I'm like everybody else. Ad valorem taxes are here. Personally, I don't like them. We don't own our houses in Florida. The state owns our houses. We just rent them for a small amount of taxes. If you don't pay your taxes, the state can take them. So we don't really own our taxes. So elimination of the tax would at least give us that option that, hey, we do own our property now instead of rent it. But that's down the road. We don't know what it's going to look like. That's something we need to concentrate on, our immediate objectives and our immediate needs instead of worrying too much about something that may or may not come to pass.
Thank you. Just to clarify, you were talking about a 2 to 3% increase of what we already pay in
Yes.
taxes. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Warrick?
So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach on this. I've talked to a lot of other commissioners, mayors, city managers about this, what this would look like. And I think hearing our answers, we'll all have uncertainty what this actually looks like. And I think we're getting in an area it's a little unsettling because last thing we want to do is put a lot more of the burden on the residents. But if you look at Panama City Beach, right? Panama City Beach doesn't have an ad valorem, and because they have their own tax, but they're able to have their own tax because Panama City Beach and Panama City, believe it or not, are the last two municipalities in the whole state of Florida that have their own sales tax because they were grandfathered in when the state said that municipalities can't do that anymore. So the whole idea with that is that you have outside people, from other states and areas that are paying their taxes. And so it helps them a lot so that they don't have to have an ad valorem tax. If there's a way we could do this so that You know, because the only way I can think of is you would have to pretty much double your sales tax to make up for the difference, not just for the municipality, but for the state also, because a lot of your money goes to the state. And so what does that look like? Will that make it so that more outsiders, vacationers come in and they pay more of our taxes as opposed to us? You know, will that make it better for everyone? I don't know. I would hope so. But the last thing I want to happen is we try this experiment and it fails, and then what happens after that? And it's scary because he stole my thing, I guess. I'm just kidding. That's okay. No other state has done this, so we don't know what exactly this looks like. But if we do it, we have to do it smartly. The other thing is we have to vote on it also. So it has to go on a referendum. We all vote on it, and at least 60% of the people in the whole entire state of Florida have to approve it. So it's in its early stages.
Thank you. So we made it through all the 2-minute response questions. We're going to set the clock over to 3 minutes. And so the following questions will be afforded a 3-minute maximum response. So we'll kind of go into that. I think the next one is to Mr. Snyder. Question 7. Do you feel that the city needs to increase the stormwater budget to $3 million a year? And if so, how do you think the increase should be obtained?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate a question on taxes right out of the gate. The short answer is the stormwater budget needs to be increased. Now, I've heard $3 million, I've heard $2.5 million. The long and short of it is the money that's being collected now is not enough. What we're collecting now is basically doing the maintenance and keeping the wheels turning. If we're going to address the capital projects that we need to solve our stormwater issues, more money is going to have to come in. How do we obtain that? Well, I mean, we've got a stormwater assessment. I know that it's not popular. I know that amount of money is something that people don't want to pay. But the reality is that this is a problem that's 25 years in the making. One of the things that I liken it to is like the city's check engine light came on 25 years ago. And because we were gun shy about addressing the issues then, now we get to buy a new car. I'm not excited about it. I'm not excited about paying more. One of the things that I think we should do is we should look at how we are collecting the funds. I think it should be scaled to the people that have the most impervious, and so that we can hopefully keep the burden to the smaller residential parcels as minimal as possible. But the reality is that we're all in this together. I mean, we have 22,000, 24,000 residents. We all have a part to play. And if you own property and you've got some impervious, then I feel like there's something that we should be paying. The money is, it's a big number, but I think that it's one that if we are wise about how we collect it and wise about how we spend it, the fact that it's an assessment's a good thing, because it can't fall off into other areas. It can only be used for its intended purpose. And I trust Mr. Lightfoot to make sure that those projects are carried out quickly, efficiently, and effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marler, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, so I can answer it in pretty short order. The storm assessment fee, at the end of the day, we have no choice but to adjust it. The city's looking at some different scales. I'm in agreement that people with larger impervious surfaces should pay more. The scale, the slide of the scale, could be adjusted, very minor increments, and affect a lot of different people. But at the end of the day, we have to be fair about it. And it goes back to what I was saying before. And it's hard to talk about and hard to say, but the more that we kick the can down the road, we end up paying for it. And we're paying for past sins, so to speak. So we have to figure out a way that's fair to everyone in the city of Lynn Haven to address the situation in short order. And if we collect more fees, when those projects are done and we fix what needs to be fixed, that money needs to be returned to the people. At the end of the day, that's the long and short of it. It's that simple.
Thank you. Mr. Beshearse?
Yes, so I know the commission's looking at this currently, and I encourage everybody to come out to the commission meetings as this comes forward because it'll be discussed pretty heavily by the commissions going forward. I will say that the existing fee, people that I hear from are disappointed that the fees that have been collected have not been spent on capital projects, capital improvements, meaning new pipes, new systems to put in to help with stormwater. That's what the increase would be, and yeah, we are going to have to increase it because as Mr. Marler says, we're just covering the cost right now. Or maybe it was, I don't know. One of the previous guys said that. Anyway, it is only covering us keeping our ditches cleaned out, and we've done some small projects, and it has helped. Our stormwater is better today than it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It has helped a lot, but there's still a lot to do. And this increase will help us go and do those capital projects. But at the end of the day, if we do this, we need to make sure that that money is spent on capital projects and not just expanding the budget for the heck of expanding the budget. It's because you know how government is. Have you ever known of a tax to go away? I can't name you one. So we would hope that this would sunset at some point, but I can't say it's going to happen. It's a tax, and government loves taxes. So that's the first thing. If we do the assessment, it needs to be correct across the board for everybody. And how that's done, we've engaged an outside expert that's come in and told us what they feel we need to do. And if we're going to pay an expert $100,000 to do a study, we need to listen to what that expert has to say and follow those guidelines. If we weren't going to listen to them, we didn't need to spend that $100,000 with them to get that information. So the commission has a history of that, of getting information from consulting or advisors and then saying, no, we really don't want to do that. We're going to do what we're going to do anyway. That's the wrong way to approach it. If you're going to engage outside advisors, you need to engage the correct ones, and you need to engage the ones that are going to make the recommendations that you need to follow that will do what you need it to do. So that's to me the stormwater in a nutshell. Is the money coming in. It's going to change how it's paid. Some people's will go up, some people's will go down. Overall, it's looking at a 50% increase right now. I think the consensus is kind of to do a 50% increase on it and pay some additional out of the infrastructure sales tax money that we now have available. We just paid that loan off this year, so now that money is available to help out. But we lose grant money and matching funds if we use it there instead of using it to pave roads or something like that. But it is infrastructure, so it can be used for that. So that's a good use for some of the infrastructure tax money. But keep in mind, we do lose matching funds when we do that, and that's something that we have to understand, that if we move $500,000 out of infrastructure tax, it's actually going to cost us $500,000 in grants when we do that, or matching funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Warrick?
Yes, so this is a tough one. This is when I've been doing a lot of door-to-door, and this is one of the top things residents talk to me about, especially if they're in the area that hasn't been totally fixed yet. They're like, well, we pay the stormwater, it hasn't fixed yet, but I see in other areas where we have done a great job in fixing it. And the city has done a good job in fixing quite a few areas, but there are definitely a lot of work to be done. One of the things that makes it difficult, it's hard to quantify stormwater. You know, you look at like your water and your sewer, you know how much water you use. Same with your trash. You got one trash can, you know, so you charge per trash can. With stormwater, you charge by impervious area, but it's never going to be 100% fair. As far as a consultant, I understand, you know, a consultant can come in and give you these solutions, but they don't have to listen to the residents when they leave. You know, I could sit up here and give you a solution all day long and be like, yeah, just charge the residents this much and then it'll solve itself. Well, the last thing I want to do is charge an astronomical amount where it bankrupts the residents. So there needs to be a proper balance there. We did have a stormwater workshop where I did some research. That wasn't just me, but part of it was me, where I did some research with City Hialeah, Florida, and I've been talking with the department down there about it. And I've looked at a lot of other cities, and we as a city pay a lot more in stormwater than a lot of other cities, and a lot of it probably has to do with Hurricane Michael and what was alluded to before, because we never really tackled this problem before 15, 20 years ago, and if they did, we wouldn't be in much of a problem that we are now. So it's a tough balance. The 17th Street debt that we had there, we paid that off, which will free up the interest that we had to pay on that to help with stormwater, so that's going to help with that. But as far as increasing it to get to $3 million, this is the way I look at it is, when you look at those capital improvement projects, we bring in, right now we currently bring in less than $2 million a year for stormwater. If you take one capital improvement project, that'll wipe that out and more. So even just by increasing it by $1 million, is it really going to help that much with capital improvement project? Is it worth the squeeze? So the other thing that I get is vacant lots, and that's one of the things I talked about in the stormwater workshop. So I encourage you to watch that. And I would really like to get residents' feedback. I know I've been getting a lot of them going door to door, and a lot of them do not like the stormwater assessment fee. But we got to get the revenue from somewhere. And I think part of the answer is grants. We really need to aggressively find grants. We already have a lot of them in the works. It takes a while to get through that process sometimes, but it's just going to take a while. But I'm not in favor of increasing it and putting it out more on the backs of the residents.
Thank you. Commissioner, I'm sorry, Ms. Tinder?
Yes. Well, I can say that one of my biggest things on this subject is it's not fair for people who own lots that have nothing on them to pay what they're having to pay, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Recently, I had a resident call me and she said, I don't understand why my fee is much larger than this person or that person, so on and so forth. So I said, well, give me a couple days. So I selected my property, which was nowhere near hers. I selected our mayor's, which was near hers. And I selected Jamie's, which was near hers. And I ran the numbers, believe it or not. I ran all this, and it made no sense. So I called Chris Lightfoot. I said, come on, you got to help me here, because what I'm reading does not make any sense at all. I just don't get it. And no wonder this poor lady certainly doesn't get it. And I hate to keep going back to 2017, but this is when it all began for me. Joseph Ashbrook, the gentleman I ran against that year, had been on the commission for 20 or 27 years. It'd been a long time. And he said in the first forum we did, they brought up a stormwater question, and he said, let me just say this. We've been talking about stormwater since I was elected 20-some years ago. And we're going to be talking about stormwater 20 years from now. Because he said, we are surrounded by water. I mean, we're right here. It's right here. And he never came up with a solution, needless to say, but he was certainly saying something very loud about it's going to be here. So we do have to come up with some kind of plan, but I think it needs to be fair. I also directed some questions about the fact that people down by the bay, for Michael, who lost their homes, they built them up on pillars that are 5 and 6 feet high. And that lady, the one I'm speaking of, she ended up having to pay for all that was underneath there, even though, it's soaking into the ground and whatnot. They sent her on to the appraiser's office to get her answers, and they weren't pleasant ones. But I think we just need to use common sense, and I think it needs to be spread out. If people can't afford to buy a lot to leave to their children or whatever they're buying it for, without having to pay a fortune, because it's going to soak up some water, or it's going to run off some water, or whatever it's going to do, that just doesn't seem fair to me. Thank you.
Thank you all. So we're a little bit ahead of time, so I kind of had a follow-up question to this question, and we'll just take a minute and just kind of go around the table in the same order. If the city, and Mr. Beshearse kind of alluded to this, if the budget is increased to $3 million, do you guys think that this $3 million should be from now on, or do you think it should be a programmed increase for a period of time and then a programmed decrease back to the operating costs or whatever? Mr. Snyder, if you'd like to start.
Thank you. The short answer is I think that if we have a say as citizens, then it should sunset. When we achieve what we need to achieve, it needs to go away. I know that Mr. Marler alluded to that, and that's a position that I would hold to as well.
Thank you. Mr. Marler?
Ditto. That simple.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Beshear, I think I already know your answer.
So yeah, I think it should sunset too. When we've achieved the goals, it needs to go away. I do want to say that, yeah, one project can eat the whole budget, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You got to do it. You've got to take care of it. You got to start working on it. Can you achieve all those goals today? No, we can't achieve all those goals today, but we have to start working on it. One of the things we've got, they're talking about a regional stormwater system up there, and that will go a ways to helping with some of our stormwater issues. It won't solve that person who floods, because believe me, we can fix everything in the city, and the one person's house that floods, that's the most important thing to them, is that event. We have to address all of that and make sure we handle that for the citizens.
Thank you. Commissioner Warrick?
Yeah, so of course the goal is nobody floods, right? Unless it's some astronomical event. I don't know what happened with the timer.
It's all right. You're good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we reached our goal, absolutely we should sunset it. I guess my thing is, are we ever going to reach a point where it would sunset? And that's a tough one. But you were talking about, we're near the water. It gives us a lot of challenges. Will you ever reach a point where everything is good to go with stormwater? I don't know if you'll ever reach that point. But if we do, yeah, I'm all for sunsetting it. I did want to follow up on a couple things if I could. Do I have time for that or no?
We'll wait. If you could hold that to the next answer, and then
Okay.
you can follow up there.
Thanks.
Ms. Tinder?
Oh, I definitely agree with all these gentlemen. Sunset. But I also think a crucial part of that whole thing is to make sure that the funds are going where they're supposed to go. That's the biggest issue to me. Follow that money and make sure it's going where it's supposed to go. And we've had that issue before where it didn't go and it wasn't paid on and things like that. And that just comes back to probably the very first thing I said. We need to create a sense of transparency that nobody can hide anything. It's open to everybody to see where it went.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So our final programmed question, Mr. Marler, it'll be to you. You'll have 3 minutes to respond. Did you vote for Mayor Nelson? Knowing what you know now, would you vote for Mayor Nelson should he run for another mayoral term?
Wow, okay. Well,
And he thinks
I did vote for Mayor Nelson, and I'm glad I did. I will stick with the premise that the majority of Lynn Haven sees and understands the progress that the city of Lynn Haven has made. Given the catastrophe of Hurricane Michael, the rebuild that we've done, the reduction in debt that has been paid down with the current administration, I will follow that up with a caveat that I don't agree with everything that Mayor Nelson does, and I'm not a big fan. I think, when it comes to diocese, decorum always has to take precedent over everything else. We can all have a personal opinion about it and say, I understand why certain things happen, if you understand and know why they're happening. But at the end of the day, my principles allow me to say, listen, we have to hold decorum at all times as a public body, and we have to allow every citizen to speak their voice, whether we like it or not. And at the end of the day, that's what matters, and that's what's important for us as a city. We have a fantastic city in Lynn Haven, and my whole vision is just to move forward together in a positive manner and continue the work that we've been doing, because we've done a fantastic job. But I'm certainly not ashamed to say, yes, I voted for Mayor Nelson. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beshear?
Sure, I'm a little disappointed this question's up here, but that's okay. We're here to answer questions, so I will answer. Yes, I voted for Mayor Nelson, and I think he's done an overall good job. You can't stand up there or sit up there. You should. You're a public official. You have to take the abuse, and there's been abuse. And believe me, when you have somebody or a group of people that come up to public commentary at every single meeting and make accusations of fraud, of mismanagement, of fraud, and accuse you of lying, yeah, there's going to be some pushback. And my issue with that is no one on the commission, the mayor, no one that's on the commission has had the guts to say, yeah, there's been fraud. There was our city manager, one of our commissioners, the city attorney, the mayor, all either pled guilty or were convicted of felonies. There was fraud. There's distrust. And why is there distrust? Because nobody on the commission wants to give an honest answer on what happened and what is happening. Yeah, there was fraud. Right now, if there's a fraud out there, take it to the state attorney's office. Believe me, Lynn Haven's been under a microscope for years at this point. And if there was fraud going on, I think it would be known, and the state attorney would file charges. If not, then the system's really broken, and that's beyond anything I can manage. But I understand that the discourse between Mayor Nelson and Commissioner Warrick was uncalled for. It shouldn't have happened. Anybody up there, the mayor could have stopped it, Jamie could have stopped it, any of the other commissioners could have stopped that at any time. I don't think the mayor needs to interrupt people during public commentary. That's your time to talk. It shouldn't happen. I'm a fan of let's do that. Let's have public commentary and let the commissioners do their report, and then have a second segment of public commentary later in the meeting, so that there can be a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of discourse and discussion between people, rather than just name calling and frustration. And I think that's what we see is frustration. It could have been the event between them could have been handled a lot different. It could have, like I said, either of them could have stopped. I know that Jamie tried to stop it. He said, this is not the time or place. He didn't want to answer the question, and that was fine. And at that point, he could have just not said anything else, and then the mayor could have just looked like an idiot for continuing on if he wanted to. Any of the commissioners could have made a motion on point of order and called a recess. It could have stopped. There needs to be respect, and there needs to be teamwork up there. And that's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing teamwork up there, and that's one reason I'm running. I want teamwork. I want to build consensus and move forward. And I don't have to agree with everybody, but at the end of the day, the respect has to be there, and you have to work as a team moving forward. That's fractured on the commission right now, and that's something that we've got to replace.
Thank you. And just to clarify, I know there may be some frustration as to why this question is here, but I think this is what the residents want to know. Is it, based on the teamwork, obviously Mayor Nelson is going to be, up there for two of your guys' terms. So, that's why this question is there, is to figure out how well or how well you may not work with the current mayor. So, thank you. Commissioner Warrick?
So a couple things I wanted to address. I know Ms. Tinder brought up about people worried about annexing into the Lynn Haven with the sewer plant. I don't think that'd be a problem, because there are actually areas in Lynn Haven that are totally surrounded by, that are county that are totally surrounded by Lynn Haven. And since I've been on the commission, I don't think it's ever happened to you where they're forced to come into Lynn Haven.
No.
And I don't know if you can do that. And if there is a way, I don't know what that is. And I'm probably going to bring up something, some people might laugh about it, but our county was recently audited by the Florida Doge thing. And when we got that one question about the city debt, I didn't think about it till afterwards, but I'd like to see if that's something we could do with that. So as far as answering this question, I did vote for Mayor Nelson. If he were to run again, would I vote for him again? It all depends on who runs against him. I would like to see the city go in a different direction. When I go door to door, this is probably the biggest subject that comes up, is that meeting on March 11th. There's a lot of people who are not happy about that meeting, and a lot of people are not happy with the mayor. So I would like, if we had someone that was a viable candidate, I would like to take the city in a different direction. The other comment that I get a lot of times is I feel like I'm the only one that brings up issues and that's trying to change things. I have, coming up on 4 years, I've been pretty patient on things at the beginning and trying to get the commission to go a certain direction. And when you continually get stonewalled, it's like, I'm trying to work with you, but at what point are you going to be a leader and step in and do what you promised the residents that you were going to do? I feel like that's what I'm trying to do when I'm up there. I'm trying to represent all the residents. Of course, I can't make everyone happy. And there was something else I was going to say about that. But yeah, a lot of people have expressed their concern about the mayor. I don't envy the position. It's not an easy position. And me and the mayor talked about this after that meeting with the city attorney, so we didn't violate any sunshine laws. But I talked to him about interrupting people when they came up. There was a reason why he moved public commentary to number 3. And the reason he moved it to number 3 was to prevent that interaction that happened so they can come up there. I don't like it when people make accusations and they say false stuff. I don't like it. Give them their 3 minutes. Let them say what they want to say. And then we can say it in our report, because as soon as you start interacting back and forth, anything you read on the line as far as guidelines and that will tell you not to do that, because it can go sour. It goes south really quick, and you saw that happen. And that needs to change.
Thank you. Ms. Tinder?
I did not answer that.
First thing I have to say about this is I can remember the mayor saying to me on one of my last meetings before I left, he looked at me and he said, "We must all agree." Now, Jamie and I disagree about the Friday morning meeting. I will always disagree with that because I think it hinders transparency. I think they go in and sit around this little table, and before they leave, I believe in my heart that every commissioner knows how everybody's going to vote on whatever they have been discussing, just based on the conversation. I've never agreed with that. But when the mayor said that to me, that I believe we must all agree, well, that's not democracy. We shouldn't all agree about everything. That just doesn't even make sense to me. We need to use our common sense, and in being 100% honest, heck no, I didn't vote for him. And not only did I not vote for him, but people have come to me about recalling. And I tell them I can't be a part of that because I'm running for office. But I'm telling you, so many people, if they set up a drive-by out here, handed in the thing for them to sign, it would be out in 2 seconds. That would all be over in 3 hours. Because that's how many people are so angry and so fed up with his behavior. And it is his behavior. He can't keep, anyway, I'm not going to do what I'm going to accuse him of. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder?
You have a knack for asking uncomfortable questions. But that's what we're signing up for. Did I vote for Mayor Nelson? Yes, I did. Knowing what I know now, would I vote for him should he run for another mayoral term? I can't answer that because he's halfway through a term. There isn't any reason that the city commission, including Mayor Nelson, can't be successful. The distractions that we've seen, the back and forth that we've seen, it doesn't do anybody any good. I can tell you that not the one, this most recent one, but the meeting before, I don't know if it was in February or January, my daughter attended that meeting, and she will not go back. How do I square with my children that they don't want any part of city government because of the things that they see and hear in the chambers? One of the resources that we're entrusted with is the people's time. Yes, we're entrusted with their money to spend it wisely, but one of the other things that we're entrusted with is their time. And so my hope is that these continued back and forth, the negativity, the outburst, all of those things can cease. Now, I don't have a solution as to why and how that can effectively happen, except that the entire commission recommit themselves to the rules of decorum that are already in place, and that the entire commission know their roles and their responsibilities regarding decorum. And so when we feel or we see something going sideways, a commissioner has got to step in. Mr. Beshearse, you made mention of the fact, call a point of order, call a recess, ask for a motion to pass the gavel so that city business can continue. We must be committed to conducting ourselves in a way that the citizens can be proud of. The reason that we don't see more public participation is because people look at it and they say, I don't need that. I don't need to be a part of that. And so that, in my mind, is one of the biggest challenges that we have, is how do we get back to a place where people want to be there, want to speak their mind, want to participate. And I think the simplest and easiest way back is just to commit to being civil. Thank you.
Thank you all. You guys have done great. We're slightly ahead of schedule, so we're going to do a backup question, or a reserved question, rather. So we'll start with you, Mr. Beshear, and we could just keep it to a 3-minute response if you guys would like, and then we'll roll into to closing remarks after this question. So the question really surrounds. What is your style, or what would you pledge to be? Do you pledge to listen to your constituents and vote based on your constituents, or do you pledge to vote on what you believe is right, regardless if it may conflict with them?
That's a great question. I like that question. And it's great because there will become times when the people that I hear from, because usually it's who you hear from when you're in any position of leadership. You hear from those that are having a problem. You're not necessarily hearing from everybody in the city in this case. So you do have to temper that and try to come to the right conclusion of what serves the city the best, and not necessarily one or two individuals or even a small group of individuals. And certainly I will put what the city needs ahead of one or two individuals, but I'm going to have to get that information. I may not be able to give the answer at that point, because when you bring it to me, I may be in an echo chamber. I may be hearing just what I'm saying or just what they're saying, and I will have to temper that and understand what the city wants, what the residents of the city want, not an individual group or special interest group. And that's what I will strive to do, is do the best for the overall city, for the entire population of the city. And I will give a good example would be taxes. I don't want to raise the taxes. That's the last thing I want to do. But if there comes a time that we have to raise the taxes to stay solvent, we're going to have to do it. And I don't think any citizen out there is going to say, yay, raise the taxes. There may be one or two, but no, overall, I don't think that's going to happen. And sometimes those decisions are going to be difficult and they're going to have to be made, and that's why you have leaders to make those decisions. But it will be made with full input from the citizens of Lynn Haven to move them forward and to make the right decisions as we go forward. I did want to drop back a little bit and talk about a couple of things really quick. One of the questions previously was about cutting services. I didn't get to finish that question, and since we've got the time, I want to talk about that a little bit. I'm not a fan of cutting services. We need to look at the budget, look at the line items, and see if there's places we can cut, or if there's places we're mismanaging our funds. I don't really think there are. I think the current leadership, the department heads are doing a very good job managing their budgets. I know that they're being held to that if they change something, they've got to be responsible for that. But one place that I do see a possibility is, as I've gone out and talked to a lot of people, I realize that a lot of people from Panama City, from the county, are coming to Lynn Haven and enjoying our parks, enjoying our sports complexes, enjoying the benefits of our city without being residents of our city and paying our taxes. We may need to look at, is there some user fees that we need to put in place to make sure that they carry a burden of that as they come in? Because our sports teams, it's a great program. We're running great programs, but it's a cost to the city, and all of the county is using that, and we need to make sure that we recover some of that when we're doing so. There are other places we may be able to pick up some funds. There's also going to be some grant money available for doing our sewage treatment plant, moving it up there. So that's something else we can use. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Warrick, kind of restate the question if you need me to.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So just kind of the idea of your voting style, would you vote based on what your constituents are communicating to you, or based on what you believe is right, if those two kind of differ?
Okay. So the first thing I want to say is, one thing I do agree with Mr. Beshearse on is, like, you're talking about outside Lynn Haven residents using our services. We actually do that with water and sewer, where they actually pay a surcharge. So yeah, I'm in agreement in that, if there's a way to do that. The question's kind of situational. So I'll try to give a general answer to it, depending on what the situation is. So I'll give you one example. Is like, we just voted on a development order right across the bridge, right? And it was for building, I think it was 38 units. It's, I can't remember the name of the subdivision it's next to, but Cash Lamara. And I wasn't a fan of the development order. But a lot of residents don't understand, like I talked about home rule, right? that our hands are tied a lot of times. And this is a perfect example of that. The only thing we can look at is the land use code. What they're developing on, does it match what they can put on that land use code? And that's it. You know, the rest of it's involved with permitting, and they make sure that everything's legal. So even though the residents, let's say the vast majority of residents aren't in favor of it, and I'm not in favor of it either, but I have to vote for it because they did everything legally. But then there's other things that we're not bound to by the state or financial requirement, like for instance, balancing the budget. And so in those instances, then yes, absolutely, I want to hear from all the residents. That's why I always take time out once a month for residents to come. I do a time with the commissioner so they can come talk to me. They can always call me, 850-391-1217. They always call me. I always invite residents to come speak to me so I can hear their opinion. We're not going to agree on everything. Obviously, you hear all of us, some of us are friends probably, and we don't all agree on everything, which is good. We shouldn't agree on everything. But if it's a situation done like that, I'm going to be more apt to go with what the residents want. But if it's something that we're bound to, then I got to make that balance. As it go against any legal requirement I need to do, then I got to go that direction. And then if you got the financial budgetary stuff, I got to balance between what the city needs so they can provide good quality service and what the residents want. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with stormwater. If you watch that stormwater workshop, trying to create that balance, and that can be a tough thing to do. But of course, I want to try to make the residents 100% happy, and I think I'm about at 95% right now. So, thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Tinder?
Oh, boy. I tend to think that if I'm elected, like all the years I've done it before, I'm representing the people. I want the people to always feel comfortable coming to me, calling me, whatever. I want to share their viewpoints with the other commissioners. I think that's who we represent, are the people. Obviously, you can't vote for something that is going to cause a real situation. I remember somebody one time in a meeting, they were being kind of a smart aleck, but they said, look at Commissioner Tinder, she asked the dumbest questions. I go, gosh, I hate that you said that, because these are the questions my residents want me to ask. They want the answers to these questions. And that's what we're here for. We're representing the people. And if we can't get them the answers that they want, then it's a sad day, in my opinion. I think that's very important, that we have to represent. I will always represent on the side of safety for our residents. We have a number of issues going on right now that are going to come. Roads that are too narrow, can't get in and out. The safety of a community is at risk because, anyway, that's a whole thing. There's 3 things going on right now, and they come to me because they know that's my number one issue. I don't want to see a child hit going to school. I don't want to see things built. Jamie and I had an issue with what he just talked about. I don't want to see something built that it's going to cause twice as long to get to an apartment building that's on fire. I don't care if it has a sprinkler system in it or not, and somebody dies because we had to go around that way, or there was only one way in and one way out. I'll never understand that, one way in and one way out of anything. The builder should have to have 2. There should always have to be one way in and one way out. Anyway, that's just my own personal opinion. Safety is my number one issue, but I will always represent the people. And if I can get the answers from the other commissioners that it can't be done that way, because I can promise you, I will call that person that night or the next day. Say, did you watch the meeting? Because here's what they're telling me. But I am their instrument to get the answers, if they can't get out or whatever the reason may be, that they don't want to be there to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder?
Would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, sure. So your style of voting, right? So are you, would you vote more towards what your constituents are telling you to vote, even though it disagrees with what you personally feel is right?
Gotcha. Thank you. So one of the things that I envision, and I've discussed this with a number of folks, is currently the commission gets the agenda on Thursdays, give or take.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. What I envision is going directly to the citizens via, Facebook, social media, however I can most effectively get to them, and just say, hey, these are the things that look really important to me on the agenda. Please let me know what you think, so that I can take it to the pre-commission meeting on Friday, and I can then take it to the commission meeting on Tuesday. The goal of a commissioner, I believe, is to represent the people, right? If you put your trust in me and put me in seat 4, then you can rest assured that I'm going to echo your concerns. The other thing that we have to do, though, is we have to be able to articulate our positions. We have to be able to say how we arrive at a decision. We have to be able to say what information contributed to that. The important thing for us is we have to make decisions that are best for as many of the people as possible. I tell people, I spend a fair amount of time listening to Ben Shapiro, and one of his things that he says a lot is getting to like 80% positions, right? If I have an issue that's very important to me, and then the seat 1 commissioner has another issue that's very important to that person, and we don't see eye to eye, but we can see a broad overlap, then I think that it would behoove us to address the issues, find as much middle and common ground as we can, and then make a decision that benefits essentially 80% of the population. Are there going to be times that we're going to have to make decisions that the people don't like? Yes. My hope is that the citizens will be reminded that they trusted us enough to put us in office, and they'll trust us enough to make the right decision when the time comes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marler, if you need the question repeated, I'll be happy to.
No, I'm good, thank you. So that's the reason we have different seats on the commission, right? You have to take a look at, everyone has a perspective and their own vision of how things work, and it goes the same with the public. If you look at the voter turnout, it's a good indication. The majority of people in any city, they don't care what's going on as long as they get up in the morning. If it doesn't directly affect them, they're good and they go on their way. So you don't always hear from, say, the majority, or like Mr. Snyder was saying, the 80%. It's our job as commissioners to reach out and foster that discourse or conversation back and forth between citizens and the commission, to be involved. It's also our job as commissioner, each one of us, to go to whatever is on the table, to go to that department head, whoever's in charge, and get accurate information on, they're the expert, right? Whatever's going on. So we need to get that information from them and make a calculated decision. And at the end of the day, like Ms. Snyder said, common sense and logic, I'm sorry, Ms. Tinder, use common sense and logic and foster that conversation with the community. And then we needed to make a decision based on what's best for the majority of the city and the people of Lynn Haven. And it's that simple. I mean, it's not complicated, but that's the reason anyway, to touch on it again. The reason we have different people in different seats is because at the end of the day, everybody's going to have a different overlapping view of the way things may work. But we have to work together at the end of the day to do what's best for the majority of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could get the clock switched over to 2 minutes, and we're going to go into our closing remarks. As we go into the closing remarks, this is obviously your time to explain to those undecided voters out there why they should vote for you. Maybe what do you feel is the most pressing issue at the forefront in Lynn Haven right now, and maybe how you plan to address that. So I think we'll just start in the middle with Ms. Tinder for your closing remarks, and then we'll go to her left until we finish up, and then we'll go from there. So you got 2 minutes.
Well, thank you for holding this forum. I think it's very, very important. I'm running for commissioner to help the people, to help facilitate things that could go much quicker than are happening. I'd also like to fight to make changes, and if I have to fight, I will. I'm not a fighter, but If I have to, I will. I think that we've got to put our residents number one. We've thrown them in the back of the garbage truck, and that's where they've stayed for a long time. I think we need to get things back the way they used to be. And I know people say, I want to move forward. I want to move forward too. But I want to move forward in a positive light, in a way that we've already seen how things work well. I think things are sidestepped. I don't think we are being told the truth on everything. I think all that is very, very important. We have some of the best schools in Bay County here in Lynn Haven. And ever since this guy, Jeff. Jeff made the comment at one of the first meetings about his children, and that he wanted to build a city that his children could be proud of. I think we're well on our way to that, just with the education that our kids are getting in Lynn Haven. When I moved here in 1988, that was the first thing I wanted to know. Where in this whole area are the best schools? Hands down, everywhere I asked, I was told Lynn Haven. My daughter graduated from Mosley in 1992, and yes, that means I have a 50-year-old, and it makes me feel very old. But I think I can serve well as a commissioner. The reason I didn't jump right back in, wow.
2 minutes goes fast.
That's all to the story.
Thanks for doing that public math for us too, by the way. Mr. Snyder, over to you, 2 minutes.
Thank you. So thank you to Lynn Haven Neighbors for hosting tonight's forum. Thank you to Mr. Langford for moderating. And thank you to the citizens for taking the time to both come out and tune in to listen to our visions for Lynn Haven's way forward. Most especially, though, I want to say thank you to my family for supporting me during this run for office. Your sacrifice has not gone unnoticed or unappreciated. Tonight, we've heard competing visions for Lynn Haven's future, and it's up to you, the voters, to decide which one sounds the most appealing. You alone have the power to see that preferred vision come true when you step into the voting booth in just over 2 weeks. My track record of service to the citizens of Lynn Haven on the planning board for the last 6 years speaks for itself. My family's involvement in the community and my investment in the long-term success of Lynn Haven is an example of my deep love for this city. Citizens deserve a commissioner who approaches leadership in city government with a positive, solution-oriented mindset. Citizens should expect a commissioner to be informed, engaged, and ready to go on day one. Citizens are going to need a commissioner that is both independent and willing to work alongside his or her fellow commissioners to address the needs of every citizen in Lynn Haven. I believe that I've demonstrated that I am that candidate this evening. I truly believe that by putting community first, there is no challenge Lynn Haven can't overcome. By enacting common sense solutions, Lynn Haven can continue to be the crown jewel of Bay County. Through a consistent approach to governing, we can become the model for local government. Thank you for your time this evening. I humbly ask for your vote on or before April 22nd.
Thank you. Mr. Marler, you have 2 minutes.
Again, thanks for Lynn Haven Neighbors putting on this event. Thank you, Corey, for moderating. I just want to touch again on the fact that I'm retired. I can devote my full attention to this commission seat, and I'm available to, again, hold our city manager and staff to the task of doing the diligent work to make sure that Lynn Haven remains what I believe is the best city in Bay County. As a commission, we need to continue to focus on reducing debt so that we're not burdened with new taxes. I know we've talked a lot about that. We need to make sure that we continue to build new roads and nicer developments and get ready for the growth that's coming to Lynn Haven, make it an appealing city for years to come. We need to make sure that our policymaking and our law enforcement, our first responders, they all mesh up to keep Lynn Haven the safe city that it is. It's very important to me. And at the end of the day, again, why I'm here is because I'm a family man. I want my son to have the city where he can grow up and raise a family here and be proud to live in Lynn Haven like we do currently. And I would just say that Given those things, I believe I'm the person to sit in the seat 4 of the City Commission, and I would ask for everybody's vote on or before April 22nd. And thanks everybody again. Thanks everybody for coming out and listening to us. It's important.
Thank you. Mr. Beshearse?
Yes. So I love Lynn Haven. It's a great place to live. People that live in the county know it's a great place to live. They come here, they enjoy our services, they enjoy our parks, they enjoy everything about Lynn Haven. It's a great place to live, and I want that to continue. I'm running because I feel like partially we've been held hostage and we're not moving forward, and we need to move forward. And we need to quit concentrating on decisions that have been made. They've been made. Learn from them if they were wrong. Celebrate them if they were right. But let's move forward and quit rehashing that stuff that's behind us. We've learned those mistakes. Let's move forward. That's one reason I'm running. I want us to move forward. And believe me, I'll represent everybody in the city to the best of my ability. The people that know me know that I have very high morals, very high integrities. I've led through some very contentious things in leadership, in church politics, which, believe it or not, can be worse than city politics because those feelings are very personal to people, and you get involved. And in those instances, those that have been on the other side of the argument from me, they got very contentious. At the end of the day, they respected me and knew that I was doing what I felt was right and that I would listen to them and do what was right by them if it was at all possible. And if I was wrong, I'll admit it. I'll be the first one up there. If I make a mistake, I'll own it every day of the week. The only people that don't make mistakes are the ones that are not doing anything, and we need the decisions to be made and to move forward. So that's what my frustration with the current commission is overall, the entire commission. I said it earlier, the city is pushing the commission instead of the commission guiding the city, and that needs to change. I've just seen that, and that's a frustration to me that we can't move forward and that we're not leading the city, we're following. A good example is the comp plan. The director of development had to submit the legally required stuff for the comp plan because the commission has not addressed it yet. That should have been addressed a year or so ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Warrick?
I'll start with the comp plan. I brought that up 2 years ago, and I brought up to the mayor, and I kept pinging him about it, and then we should have had that done by now. But anyways, so when me and my wife, when I retired from the Air Force, me and my wife decided we could move anywhere we wanted, and this was the area we wanted to move to. And everybody said we moved to Lynn Haven, and we moved here for a reason. We love Lynn Haven. So people ask me, why are you putting yourself to this torture? Why are you doing this? And it's like I said earlier, community involvement was something that was instilled to me at a very young age. My father was a fire chief. And it was instilled to me when I went in the Air Force, and it's still instilled to me. I feel like this is a service I can provide. I feel like I have the skills and knowledge to move the city in the right direction. You know, I've overseen multiple teams, even in real world situations that were even chaotic. Like I said, I oversaw a unit of 250 people overseeing multiple aircraft. I could be out, you know, fishing, boating, doing something like that, but I'm that compassionate. I feel like community service is an important thing. You know, my family sacrificed a lot by me being in the military, and I feel bad at times because I feel like here I am putting them in the, you know, making them sacrifice for me doing this, but I can't thank my wife enough for allowing me to do this. She knows how successful of a person I am. She knows that I have the skills and knowledge for this, and she knows I will be successful. And I know what success is. I've led multiple successful teams and multiple people. I still have people contact me today that said, hey, thank you for what you did, even after they get out of the military, to kind of set them up for success even after they got out of the military. So with that being said, I humbly ask for your vote on or before 22nd April. Thank you.
Thank you all. As you all heard, there are beautiful bells from our city clock. It's 7 p.m., so I'll keep my comments real short. But again, thanks to all the candidates. Thanks for everyone who's watching online. You know, these Lynn Haven officials, two of these people that are sitting up here are going to be faced with some difficult decisions. And, you know, you're going to be required to make those decisions. So, you know, I can't speak for the rest of the residents in Lynn Haven, but for me, I'm appreciative that we have such talented people. You guys are all making our decisions very difficult as far as to who to put in position to make those difficult decisions. So thank you all for running. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Everyone have a good night.
Hey, sorry, this is a little impromptu. I just want to thank all the candidates for coming out and all the members of the community. We had a little bit of a technical issue. I had to broadcast this on my personal profile, but I will be sharing this online, uploading it to the YouTube tomorrow, and I'll make sure that's pushed out to all the candidates and the community members, because this is for y'all. This is the only reason I did this 2 years ago and did this again this year. So on behalf of Lynn Haven Neighbors, thank you all for watching and attending. Have a good night.